Hey everyone, I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
And this is your Horror Show News Editorial Edition, brought to you right here on The Horror Show. And this is what we do every Friday here. We basically do the stories over on Kings of Horror. If you guys want, you can head over and watch the video where we deliver the stories proper.
A little more formal.
Absolutely, but as you can see, the stories are right here on my right. We are going to be going through and actually talking about what we think about this week's stories.
Yeah.
And as always, we get a little bit looser, we get a little bit more relaxed while we talk about this. So, Fuego, I want to know, have you ever actually been to Halloween Horror Nights?
I'm not legit. I never have been. Although you were telling me pre-production meeting that you went many times, like a number of years in sequence at one point.
I went 2 or 3 years in a row. I know at least 2. I think it might have been 3, but it is an amazing experience. One time I even paid for the VIP tour, which was kind of pricey, but basically we got walked around the entire park and we got to walk to the front of every line while the guy talked to us about everything that was happening. The problem is...
That's dope.
It is dope, except that when you're walking through the park, because the way it is Universal Studios converts the entire park into a horror park. So not only are there haunted houses that they've made specifically, but all of the spaces in between the haunted houses are themed as well. Like one year it was La Llorona, another year it was zombies, another year is the Purge. So when you're walking from this haunted house to this haunted house, you have to walk through the Purge, or you have to walk through, varying.
So there's
themes.
even more actors and stuff like that.
Absolutely,
okay.
Just walking around the park, scaring people with chainsaws and random things.
So it's a full-on experience.
It is absolutely a full-on experience.
Nice.
And yeah, every time I've gone, it's been amazing. Hollywood-level stuff. They really put all the effort into it. I've seen a Halloween maze before. I've seen a bunch of different ones. A Saw maze that was really awesome. So I'm excited the fact that we're getting an Exorcist maze, Freddy vs. Jason maze.
That's what I would want.
Yep. A Texas Chainsaw Massacre maze, a Halloween Hell Comes to Haddonfield maze, and then a American Horror Story maze.
Finally, right?
And of course a Krampus maze, which is interesting because the Krampus
movie could have been better.
Yeah, the movie should have been better, but who knows? They can make a scary haunted house out of it, I think.
Yeah, because it was just a PG-13 movie, and I felt like that held the property back just a wee bit last Christmas. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Well, and we might get a haunted house with a little bit of Christmas flair in it, so that would be cool.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I've done like Fear Farm here, and Alice Cooper's Nightmare. I think that was one of the better ones that was going annually here. He was converting a full-on warehouse into people with chainsaws and levitating bodies and craziness. But I think that's as top-notch of a haunted house as I've ever seen, and this is a whole park.
Yeah.
That's a haunted house, so that's pretty rad.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, so I want your thoughts on one of my favorite Stephen King books being adapted a second time. You like the decade jump, the fact that they're going the 80s to the present day as opposed to, 50s to the 80s like in the original book, but I gotta say I don't like the look of Skarsgård, man. I don't. Not that...
It might end up being scary, but it does look a little too dollish, a little too feminine.
Which
it does not
in the regular release.
It does not. When you add that many frills to the costume, it just takes away from the scariness.
Yes, it was so fluffy, and I felt like the smile was not as menacing with the teeth as the smile in the original just face shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not. It looks more childlike and more silly, and I mean, I'm holding out hope that this is going to be awesome. Curious if it's going to be R-rated.
God, I would hope so.
Yeah,
I didn't even think that would be a question.
There's some R-rated stuff in the book, but if they're going for more of like a Goonies, kids, they're saying it's very influenced by Stranger Things, which I think there could be some good and some bad to.
Well, how could it be very influenced by Stranger Things when they have already started working on it? Stranger Things just came out.
Well, when the producer goes out to say, yeah, it's got kind of a Stranger Things vibe, I mean, I know the kid from, who played Mike, who was so great in Stranger Things.
Well, maybe he just...
Beep Richie.
Yeah, but maybe he just means that the beginning decade, since it takes place in the 80s, it's got that feel to it in that section.
Well, this movie is only the kid's story.
Oh, the first one is? Yeah. Oh, really?
And the second one, so they are essentially going to split it up into 2 separate halves, as opposed to in the original miniseries and in the book, where they jump back and forth throughout the entire thing. They're separating it completely, which I have mixed feelings about.
That's interesting.
So
it'll be a cool way to attempt it.
Just a Losers Club. Yeah. So I don't know, but the look of the clown I don't like. So that's just me. Yeah.
Well, let's go from remakes to sequels, and the fact that Mark Duplass has confirmed that Creep 2 and Creep 3 are currently in the works. Of course, they're working on Creep 2 first, but Creep 2 will follow.
Always planned as a trilogy, from what I was reading in the article.
Very
so that's
interesting.
kind of interesting. So
I don't know. Did you like the movie?
Loved it.
We talked about it on one of our recent podcasts. If you want to check it out.
Yeah, that was the one where we doubled up with Hush, which was another one that I discovered on Netflix. I know you and I both liked it. Our co-host Marsha Parker was not so fond of it.
Much, but I'm interested to see what Mark Duplass can do with a sequel and with this crazy character that he's created.
Yeah, I'd only seen him do comedy, and then he did stuff like oh goodness, the one I love so much, Safety Not Guaranteed, calling Trevor out. But he was genuinely very just unnerving in this as the story progressed. Too very creepy, living up to the name.
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited. I would, and they make them on the cheap, and they do well. So yeah. Next we have another icon character, Freddy Krueger. Nobody knows when he's going to come back to the screen. You chimed in just to remind me that Chucky is coming back to screen, but we've also got Jason Voorhees coming. We've got Michael Myers coming. We've got Leatherface. All of those are in the midst of development, whereas aside from a scriptwriter being added last August, nothing. Donuts, man. So are we going to see another remake? And if so, would you like Kevin Bacon in that role?
I would be interested to see him try. I don't know how it would turn out, but like I've stated before, I'd rather have them try and make another good Freddy movie than not try at all.
Yeah, it's not going to erase the original films that I loved so much. I mean, then again, Freddy's Dead was pretty bad, but all the others I
liked
enjoyed.
it. Screw you, Freddy's Dead was fun.
It was definitely more funny and goofy. I mean, it wasn't like Tom Arnold in that one.
Yep.
And,
Tom Arnold and Roseanne,
Yeah, Roseanne, because they were still married at the time before they had that face off. God. No, I think Kevin Bacon would be cool. He almost even looks kind of like the facial structure, kind of like a Robert Englund, but then again, so did Jackie Earle Haley, and we all know how that one went.
Not so great, but
I think redeeming qualities.
I think Kevin Bacon could pull it off.
Yeah.
In an interesting way.
He's done good guys, he's done bad guys. I think he is multifaceted enough in his 6 degrees-ness that, I'm very interested in what he could pull off and how he could maybe just bring this franchise back to prominence. It'd be cool.
Absolutely. And speaking of franchises, Death House is apparently slated to be a 6-film franchise if it does well enough.
That's pretty
ambitious. That might be putting the cart before the horse a little bit before your first film has come out.
Don't get ahead of yourself, too.
With all the names, I mean, again, we have Kane Hodder, we have Tony Todd, we have Dee Wallace,
love Dee Wallace.
We have Sid Haig, we have Bill Moseley, we have all kinds of different people involved in this project, and they even said that they're hoping to get Robert Englund in on the sequel.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. What do you think? Do you think they're getting ahead of themselves by claiming it's going to be 6 movies?
Well, obviously, you have to see about the success of the original one, but with all these big names and the fact that I would imagine the chemistry on screen will be really good, because you and I have covered so many conventions where we always see these guys hanging out and talking to each other. I think they're friends behind the scenes, and so that will only help with this project going well as long as the script is good. Concept sounds interesting. I mean, horror Expendables, how could you go wrong with that?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the idea, I love it, the Area 51 of evil. That's a great little tagline too, and it's typical that a prison housing the worst people ever gets, tripped up and they all get freed, but
I never would expect that to happen.
But the fact that some of them are supernatural, it feels like the movie might be a version of the end of Cabin in the Woods when all the things go free.
Which was one of the best parts of that
movie. I'm hoping they can translate that.
Yeah,
I'm hoping they can translate that.
And as far as translating things goes, we are finally seeing that amazing score from Stranger Things translated to, not having to bootleg it or people who have ripped it from certain segments of the show. We're going to get to hear it in its unadulterated entirety. I can't wait. It's such a great score and such a big one that they're dividing it up into 2 halves. And they're both available digitally now as of this Friday. So the second half comes out today if you're watching this on its debut day or on Kings of Horror when we were first discussing it. And then it's going to see a physical release in stores for... Who buys CDs? I buy CDs. I like having something physical and tangible. I know you're just going to go seeking it out right now probably, but it was great, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was better than the soundtrack for It Follows, which was one of the standouts for last year.
Shit Follows, sorry.
It was a terrible movie, but the soundtrack was great.
Yes, it was. It was the best part of the movie, as we talked about in our review of it, if I remember correctly. And as far as properties being overrated, It Follows was one that I felt was. Stranger Things lived up to it, man.
Absolutely. And you can check that out. We did a review of that just recently, so make sure you watch that. But I don't know. I think that's going to do it for our editorializing of this week's news stories. Thanks very much for watching, you guys. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, I've been Jaime Fuego.
You can catch us doing this right here every single Friday. Again, remember, we go and we do the actual stories over on Kings of Horror. So that's youtube.com/The Kings of Horror. Hit that up every Friday, and we'll be right here talking about those stories right afterwards.
So if you want to double dip and you've watched this backwards and seen us here editorializing first, jump over to Kings of Horror, see us give a little bit more insight in a more professional variety.
Absolutely. And until next time, remember,
stay scared.